Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on what time you watch this video. Today, we'll be talking about how to make string dinks and the fundamental science behind it. Now, before we start, let's talk about the materials that we would need for string dinks. Now, we would need any type of markers, whether that be pencil markers or the typical markers you can find at your local supermarket. Moreover, we'll also need Sharpies and paint. This will mainly be used to draw on our string dink and make the design we want. We'll also be needing construction paper with the image that you want to print on your string dink, scissors, and last but not least, the most important part, type 6 plastic. This is the most fundamental part of string dink, and you can probably find it in any plastic container around your house. Please make sure to check underneath to make sure it's specifically number 6 plastic. This is the most fundamental part, and if you don't have this, sadly you won't be able to make it. Once you have all these materials and you have printed out the design that you want, make sure to put your number 6 plastic on top of your design. Now I have two designs that I want to print out and test out to see how they look. I have the Senju Center logo and my most favorite Pokemon, Pikachu. I'll be tracing both of them. So the first step is to put the plastic on top and trace your design. Now I already have done this process using Sharpies and then markers. I have traced my design. This is not the most cleanest design and I'm not an artist, but it is a start. And you don't have to be perfect or concise. Since the design are shrinking later on in the oven, all your imperfections will be covered up. Now, once you have made your design, make sure to use your scissors and cut out the outline. Make sure to leave a little bit of gap so when it does shrink, it doesn't look completely off. Now, I have done the exact same thing with the Pikachu design. Earlier, I made a trace of it using the Expo markers and using my Sharpies. And later on, using scissors, I cut them. After you have constructed your design, you have to move on and use the oven. Now, when using the oven, make sure to have it preheated at 325 degrees. This is a good temperature where you won't burn your string dinks, but at the same time, it wouldn't take too long. When putting your string dinks into the oven, make sure to put it on an oven tray with aluminum foil. Now, safely put it into your oven at the 325 degrees and leave it in there for approximately 1 to 2 minutes. Make sure your two string dinks are separate and not touching each other when in the oven. Now, just leave it in the oven for 1 to 2 minutes and wait and check periodically to see what happens. Your string dinks might curl up, and that's perfectly fine. They will straighten out laterwards after you leave it in the oven long enough, or if they don't, you can take it out and use any hard surface to straighten your string dinks. Once you take it out of the oven, they should be much smaller than their original size. And look, wow, my Sanjak logo and my Pikachu head are much smaller than their original size. Now, when taking it out, make sure that they're straight. My Sanjak logo is slightly tilted and curved. So just use a hard surface and press down onto it immediately after taking it out of the oven to make sure they're completely flat. Once your string dinks are cooled off and straightened out by a hard object, you're ready to paint. Now I'll be primarily using markers and paint, but you can use anything else to fill in your two string dinks or how many you have to make it look more neat and vibrant. I'll be first using markers to fill in an outline of what I need to do. As you can see from my Sanjak logo, I started doing that. I plan to fill in the whole Sanjak logo with yellow, as seen at the referral image, and using yellow paint afterwards to make it look more vibrant. Your end product should look something like my Pikachu, where everything looks neat and nice, and almost all the imperfections are gone because of the paint and shrinking. Now before we go, let's quickly talk about the science behind this. Now, the key component of all this is number 6 plastic. As we mentioned earlier, this is the fundamental part of string dink. And the key part of number 6 plastic is how it shrinks. This is because number 6 plastic, or otherwise known as polystyrene, is manufactured in a very unique way. The plastic itself is originally, when created, very clumped and bumped up with each other. So when trying to stretch it out, the manufacturers heat it up at a very extreme heat and stretch it out, and very quickly cooling it down. This causes the plastic to be very unstable. If heated at all, it will start shrinking, as seen from our example. Now, as we know the science and now we have a great product, you're ready to have fun and create your own shrink dinks.